get started. Because we don't want to keep you guys, but I'm sure we'll have a couple more people logging on. Anyways, you all know who I am, Myrna Baltazar with Absolute Mortgage and Lending, and we just like to tell you what's going on in the market. And today we have Kai, and he's my CEO. So we're excited to have him on. I know we've been talking about bringing him on for a while. And we just wanted to have just, an open forum and talk a little bit about what's going on in the market and what's going on with your realtor commissions and any questions that you might have that I haven't been able to answer. Now is the time. So I'm going to let Kai introduce himself and just tell you a little bit more about himself.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. They call me Kai the Mortgage Guy. Okay. I've been in the industry for 23 years now. So I know I don't look more than 25, but I've been in the industry for 23 years now. So I'm here to help you guys with any questions you guys have. I know it's a big topic. It's starting this Saturday, right? We have 2 days before, I know a lot of people has been giving me calls asking about, hey, how do we do this? How do we do that? So it's going to be an open discussion. Feel free to ask any questions and we'll go from there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We want to go ahead and start talking about the commission or?
Yes.
Yes, please.
All right. So one of the biggest changes now, I'm pretty sure everyone's aware that the commission for the buyer's agent is now negotiable, right? On the lending side, okay, what all the agency is saying is that the buyer's commission, if the seller is paying for it, we do not count it as part of the maximum contribution for the borrower. For example, most loan will have a cap of how much the seller can contribute to the borrower's closing costs. Well, what the agency, FHA, Fannie, Freddie is saying is that that amount that in commission will not count against the borrower as part of their max contribution from the seller. Okay, you do have to itemize it where they say, hey, if the seller is paying 5% in closing costs, you have to itemize it. Hey, 3% is for the buyer's agent and 2% is to pay the buyer's closing costs. Does that make sense? That's the only restriction we have right now. Now, I know a lot of people talking about, can we roll the money?
Wait. Can you repeat that? 3% is for?
Well, let's just say how it's negotiable. Everything's negotiable.
Yes, right. That's correct.
So what the FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac is saying is that if the seller is paying the commission, part of the closing costs, that amount that goes toward your commission does not count against the borrow max contribution from the seller. Does that make sense? So let's just say you negotiated on a $500,000 loan. You negotiate where the seller is paying $25,000 in closing costs. Okay, let's just say normally the max contribution from on the loan side is 3%. So the max contribution is $15,000. Okay, so because the seller's paying $25,000, that's not normally allowed. But if that $10,000 is to pay the commission, we do not count that $10,000 in commission as part of the max contribution paid by the seller.
So they just have to itemize it on their contract now.
Yes, you just have to itemize it. Let's just say you negotiated $25,000 commission, $25,000 in closing costs from the seller. You have to say, hey, $15,000 is for the buyer's agent commission and $10,000 goes to the buyer closing costs.
And are these max contributions different for each loan?
Yes.
Okay.
So FHA will allow you up to 6%. Now that's only for the buyer's closing costs. Okay.
Closing costs.
Okay. That does not include your commission. So let's just say you negotiate 10%. 4% of that can go to your commission, but only 6% can go toward the buyer's closing costs. The buyer is capped of what the seller can pay toward their closing costs. They are not capped at how much commission is paid to you.
So the FHA loan, is it the maximum allowable seller credit to buyer is 6% of the loan amount or 6% of the purchase price?
It's the 6% of the purchase price. Okay, but that does not include commission. So if you can add commission on top of that 6%.
Wait, Kai, isn't it 6% on the loan amount?
No, it's 6% of purchase price. Yeah.
I think I always base it off of loan amount.
No, it's on purchase price.
Oh, okay. I should take a note on that one.
Yeah, purchase
See,
price.
I'm learning something new.
How about the other loans? Do you happen to have those max
Yes.
numbers?
Now, on conventional loan, okay, if this is a primary home, okay, if the borrower is putting less than 10% down, the max the seller can pay is 3%. If they put more than 10% down, from 10 to 25% down, is 6%. And if it's more than 25% down, they can go up to 9%. Now, this is on primary home, okay, and secondary. On investment property, the max they can contribute is 2%. Okay. Now, remember, this does not include your commission. So you can always add your commission on top, and they do not cap how much your commission is. If you can say, hey, I negotiate 5% commission for myself, as long as you put seller will pay 5% in commission to the buyer's agent, and then 3% to borrow closing costs, you can negotiate 8%. We don't care what the cap is toward you. Okay, there's no cap. Okay.
And on a VA loan, is it still 4%?
It's still 4% unless you negotiate more for buy down. Okay. Now VA is the same way as they say that commission does not count toward you, does not count against you. That's the borrow contribution. You just clearly have to put down in the contract, you know, what percentage of the sales price is your commission. Okay. And out in this market, I'm pretty sure we can, you know, you can negotiate it because seller's not going to sell the house. It's the exact same thing as before. It's just that we can't automatically put it in the NMLS, and you just can't see. You just have to say, hey, will you pay my 3% commission? That's it.
So how do you guys think it's gonna affect you guys? Do you think it's gonna be that easy where it's just gonna be like, yeah, the sellers are still gonna pay it and they just need to itemize it? What are you guys seeing? What do you think is gonna happen out there, Jennifer?
No, I think it in the end, yeah, as long as we're able to negotiate it. I see it as like if we're gonna put an offer, we just put the commission portion as part of the offer, and it's just another subject that we have to negotiate, right? So we're negotiating the purchase price, and then we just have this other thing that we're gonna end up negotiating with as well. So I see it as like, because you never know if a seller is gonna receive a higher purchase price with a lower percentage of, you know, commission to buyer's agent, but that might be better than, or not better than like a lower purchase price but higher to buyer's agent. You know, it's all about the numbers and their net for the seller. And then it's also like, okay, and then what can we do for the buyer in order to get this property? Like how much is the buyer's agent willing to work with the buyer, and what is their minimum amount that they're going to require? So it's really all about like disclosing and having those conversations and understanding each other's, you know, requirements in order to make it happen. So yeah, I feel like there's just going to be a lot of moving parts, but in the end, I don't think it's going to be as complicated as everyone's thinking it's going to be.
This is what I recommend. If you're listing a property, have this conversation with your seller. Hey, you know, this is the listing commission is 3%, but I want you to expect that the buyer's agent is going to also negotiate 3%. So it's still 6%. It's just that we're just telling you 3% is required for a listing agent, And then when you have this listing agreement, I want you to know that 99% of the time, the buyer's agent is going to negotiate 3% of the sales price to be their commission. And just have that conversation with the seller up front, you know, just like if you're on the buyer side so that you can expect it, you can also expect it on the listing side to have a conversation with your seller up front.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
think it's
guys-
just having those conversations. But it's good to know that this is very informative, like the max, and then it's just another itemized item. But I don't know if this is a stupid question, but this is in effect like the buyers, if they're receiving the extra money on their books, but I guess it's like it comes in, but it goes out, right? So it doesn't affect them like in taxes or like
No,
the transaction of it all because it comes in and out, right?
no,
And like it
because
comes in and then it goes out to the agent. So
yeah, it
yeah.
wouldn't affect them because if a seller paid closing, it's just part of their fee of buying, but they're still paying the same price. So it
Right.
doesn't affect, there's no tax consequence or anything.
Right.
They're
And
not-
does it even necessarily, Francis, does it even necessarily have to go to the buyer or wouldn't it just be another coupe and it's just like the same thing but
Yes.
negotiated?
Yes.
Right? So it's not like Francis, did she disappear?
So when you guys are talking about the seller credit, or utilizing commissions as a seller concession, that's only if the seller decides to pay the concession directly to the buyer, right? Is that what you guys are talking about? Because there's changes to our contract in the state of Hawaii where there's still that option where if the seller wants, then they can pay a commission directly to the broker of that buyer's agent, or directly to, split it in different ways. So what you guys are talking about is if the seller decides to provide a concession to the buyer for a general amount, then that anything above the maximum concession for whatever loan program the buyer's using, that would have to be specified in the contract and the closing disclosure.
Yes.
So
Let's just say anything a max. Let's just say the max allowable closing cost is 20,000, but you negotiate 30,000 in closing costs. You have to specify that, hey, that additional 10,000 is going toward your commission. You can't, because if as lenders, when we read it, if we read that, hey, seller will pay 30,000 in commission, we will read, hey, the max the seller can pay is 20,000. That 10,000 automatically goes back to the seller.
Goes back to the seller, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have to specify, hey, 20,000 is to pay for the buyer's closing costs, and the additional 10,000 goes to the buyer's agent commission.
Got it.
So let's say that the seller doesn't want to give anything, right? It's like a seller's market. The buyers, it's like things are flipped. It's not like what it is now. So and then let's say the buyer's like, well, I don't have money to pay for the buyer's agent, but what scenario are you able to work with the buyers with the loan process and being able to pay off their agent, because sellers are like, I'm not paying for nothing.
Yes. So right now, this is the agency, Fannie, Freddie, and FHA is still working on this because this is also brand new to us as well. So they're trying to figure out, hey, can we roll in agent's commission into a loan? And that's one of the hottest topic right now. Hey, how are we going to work this? And because it's just rolling out, we don't have an answer yet. Now, what we can do is if the borrower doesn't have enough, a lot of times lender can give a certain lender's credit if we increase the interest rate. Okay. So let's just say, buyer doesn't have enough closing money for closing costs, so they need some lender's credit. What we can do is we can increase the interest rate and pay the buyer closing costs, which in turn can be used to pay your commission. But that's a very tough sale because it takes a lot to go up to pay that commission. That's 3%. That's a lot. So I would strongly advise that somehow we negotiate up front with the seller. Like a lot of times, this is what I recommend. If you have to increase the sales price to include your commission in there, increase the sales price. let's just say instead of offering 500,000 on a property, you can say, hey, I'm going to offer 515,000, but that 15,000 is the buyer's agent commission.
Right. And Kai, do you remember back in the day? It used to be like that anyways, when we had like Nehemiah Gold and
Yeah.
all of those other down payment assistance programs, they always just included in the purchase price.
Yeah.
So it's
that's
like we're going right back to that again.
Yeah, we're just going back to, hey, if you negotiate in your sales price, because let's just say the house is listed at 495 and you want to offer 515 because you want, really want that 15,000 to go to your commission, I would just tell the buyer that just if they don't have money to pay the commission, Now the sticky subject is that, I'm just afraid that a lot of buyers, they say, hey, I'll just go directly to a listing agent. That's why they protect you by having you sign that agreement before you sell the house.
So are you saying, so let's say a buyer is approved for like 400, but then if they want to purchase something
I'm on a Zoom call.
for 350, then we could put in an offer for like 360, right? And then
Yeah.
and then we can get paid as a buyer's agent.
Yeah,
So
just say,
basically their purchasing power would have to be 3%. Whatever they buy
Yes.
has to be 3%
below.
lower than the purchase price.
Yeah, just so you
Okay.
can add
Or
in
the
your
purchasing
commission.
power. Okay. Purchasing price 3% lower than, okay.
We're
So
just
it's
going
just in
back
their
to,
loan.
to,
Okay.
to back then when, we used to have to do it when they have to put that in the fee, just basically we're
Right.
just putting in the purchase price.
Yeah.
Now let's just
Okay.
say the house is listed for 500 and the borrower only want to offer 480, but they say, hey, Jennifer, I don't have enough for commission. Can we add it into the purchase price or roll it into a loan? At that point, you say, instead of offering 480, let's offer 490 and say, hey, can you pay 10,000 in commission or 12,000 in commission or whatever?
But it's gonna have to be specified, right? Well, yeah, you're
It
right.
has to just be specified how
Yeah.
much is that as commission.
Right.
So,
Well,
so if you submit, like in that example, so if property is listed for 500, buyer wants to submit 480, buyer doesn't have the funds, seller's not willing to pay a concession, so you would submit an offer at 490 and then ask for a $10,000 concession from the seller for buyer agent commissions.
Yes.
That means that the buyer will be financing that 10,000, right?
Yes. Yes.
So is there, this
Good
might be a
point.
dumb question, but is there a because we used to do this all the time, like
Mhm.
depending on like in 2020 and 2021, to calculate the buyer's monthly payments,
Yes.
we would have to determine what the credits, if we would apply it to closing costs, if we would apply it to rate buy down, how that would change their monthly payment, especially in this market because the rates are high. The monthly payment really matters. So is there a calculator that we can use? Does your company have a calculator? I know sometimes it's proprietary, but is there a calculator where we could theoretically be like, hey, buyer, if you submit this offer price, this is what changing your monthly payment is, but the value add is me closing the deal. You know what I mean? Like, is there a way we can just input our own numbers to figure out the monthly cost?
I mean, if you just go to any website and get a mortgage calculator and just put, hey, 10,000 and what the interest rate is and divide by, and you'll tell the difference between, the 500 and 490, what's the difference in their payment is going to be. It might be like a $15 or whatever difference monthly. I'll do a quick rundown for you where we do it.
I guess I was considering like if there's a calculator that would include like rate buy down purchase, that type of cost, and then you can plug in like, I mean, a lot of the calculators already have monthly taxes and hazard insurance, etc. But something to just be a little, like if you were to do an estimated settlement statement, like if there's some way you could access the underwriter's calculator. I don't know. I was just thinking out loud.
I usually do it like, when I have the application, I actually do the different scenarios for them. And I do it
Mhm.
as an itemized fee worksheet. Like, here's what it would be with 500, here's at 490. But the buy down can't be automatic because it depends on their credit scores, on how much money they're putting
Yeah.
down, what program they're doing.
Gotcha.
So that's a big variable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
guys ever want to know, give me a call and I'll do a dummy file for you, a test file, and I'll tell you guys here, I'll send it over to you and you can send it, or, we can do a Zoom call and go through it with your client.
Plus, I think that is really like the client's loan officer job is when they're like, oh, this is what we want to look into buying. What is our option? So I think it's that buyer's, you know, broker's job to do.
We do quite a few with Jennifer
Like
and
just provide a
Lisa.
bunch of options. Yeah.
Lisa too. But yeah,
So
were you
that's the biggest changes. And I would, if I were you guys, start having these conversations with the buyer early. Have it with the buyer, have it with the seller. When you're listing, just tell them, hey, most likely the buyer's agent will negotiate 3% commission. So let's add it on top of the list price right now or something. Just so that we can, if we all become proactive, it become a much easier conversation. Instead of, we isolated only one person talking about, but if everyone's talking about it, seller's going to be prepared for it, buyer's going to be prepared for it, and it's just become a norm in our industry that, hey, this is something that we just have to talk about.
Yeah. So Chris, what have you been seeing? Because I know that we've been shopping for some of our clients.
Well, we just came out, like I know in Hawaii, we just came out with a whole new contracts updated today regarding addressing commission, who's paying for it, and so forth. So I think, like everybody's saying, it's going to be a change, and a lot of it's going to have to be communication with the sellers. I'm of the opinion that, the commission's always kind of been built into the appraisal. And, that may be a tough conversation because if, you had a house that was listed at 500 and the commission for the buyers has been built into that, now going back to your seller and saying, hey, look, you're not obligated, not that you ever were, to pay that 3%. So, the reality of your value of your house might be 3% lower. I don't see many sellers saying, oh, I'm not going to take 3% less because of the changes. I'm just going to take what I can because ultimately, for most sellers, it's the bottom line. It's what are they going to make from the transaction and so forth. So, it's going to be a lot of communication between agents and sellers. Myrna and I do a lot of first-time home buyer classes, so a lot of our buyers can barely, come up with earnest money. So having these talks with them, we're kind of hoping that maybe the lenders and the governing bodies will allow possibly some, if not all, of the commissions to be rolled in to the loan. But we're gonna have to see, what changes come down the road.
But you know what? I also think that your buyer's commission is going to be a lot less than what you're typically used to seeing, like 3%. I feel like they're going to 2%, 1.5%.
I wouldn't say that. I say that, hey, let's keep our 3%. Let's keep our value. Let's show them, hey, this is what we are doing. Let's be positive about it. Let's have the conversation and just keep
No,
negotiating.
we've already seen them. Like when he's going to show a property and they won't put, on the MLS how much they're paying for commission, and he calls and they're telling you it's what, 2.5?
Yeah, I think what 2.5 to 3% here in Colorado is about standard.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is just the MLS has started being proactive and they've gone in and started removing commission percentages off. From what I'm understanding here, going all the way back to 2007, eventually everything's going to be wiped off the MLS as far as commissions.
Well, I think it's already been kind of was like when it was I think it's always been 2.5 or 2% for Hawaii. Like for the buyer's agent, a lot of the listings out here, like it's kind of rare when you see 3%. Like there was like a dip. Maybe was it like after COVID and the market slowed down, everyone got desperate. Now the listing agents are like, well, I'm gonna take more because I'm broke. And so like right now, currently, if you look at the market and like, before they remove all the co-op listing prices on the market, you can see it's 2.5. Like, I don't know if anyone else, I've noticed that where I'm like, all right, whatever. But I think the goal is to keep it at 2%. That's like the minimum.
Yeah.
And I think as an agent, we just need to, like the buyer's agent, we just need to tell the buyer, like, okay, well, if the seller is not willing to pay more than a 1%, then you need to pay me that difference, and that's where we need to get creative with the loans. And if the if you guys if you guys the loan officers in the market can provide like a secondary, because I know like they have those second mortgages for the down system program, like if they could have something like that for like the listing or the buyer's agent commission, that'd be really cool in the sense of like, oh, we'll fund you the listing agent commission up to 2%. You just need to pay it off at a certain time, kind of like what you guys have for the down system program, right? I gotta imagine the monthly payments would be super low as if it's spread out for so many years.
Yeah.
If
The,
that could be
the
created somehow, that'd
agency,
be kind of cool.
that's one of the topic that agency FHA, Fannie and Freddie is working on, because this is so new. They're talking about, hey, how can we roll this in to help first time home buyer? They're really trying to work on that affordability. And this is one of the issue with affordability now, that, you know, a lot of first time home buyer, they can't even afford to put the down payment now, much less pay
Right.
the commission. So all the agency are talking about it. They are working on something. I don't know how long it will take, but as soon as we hear something, we'll let you guys know. Okay. About
sure.
how we can roll it in as part of, and if you think about it, if they take it, they roll divided by 30 years, their monthly payment is extremely low. So
Yeah.
the agency are working on it. As soon as we know something, we'll let you guys know.
Yeah, I'm sure some big money maker is gonna come up with the program because this is just another need out there. So someone's gonna get creative and be like, okay, this is how you're gonna pay your buyer's agent. And I'm just gonna charge you 10%, but at least it's expanded for X
30
amount of
years.
years. Yeah. So your monthly payments are affordable.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
they're just going to have to adapt to, what's going on.
yeah. Something's gonna happen. It'll be interesting. But what you guys shared so far is very valuable. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? I know, we always say we don't want our meetings to go over. We're about 5:30 right now. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Mona, I do.
Okay.
So, we have a listing and we have a buyer that wants to buy, and we were in escrow. However, the lender, we had to get out of escrow because the lender said, and you helped us with this. We went to you. Even though we represent the seller, we asked you if you could help the buyer. And you said there was a program that if they came up with 25%, that you could help them. So we're back on the market. So we didn't want to go into escrow and fall out of escrow again. So we've been talking with the buyer's agent when they come to look at the property and they say the buyer is interested. So one of them said her buyer was interested. They really want to buy it. So I said, go to your lender and see what they need to do, whether it's a higher down payment or whatever they need to do so it does not fall out of escrow. And she came back to me and said they would not be putting an offer in because the lender said that our complex or building was not on the approved building list for insurance. There were like only 87 buildings in the state of Hawaii that were on that list, and we were not one of them.
So remember we talked about the non-QM loans where they follow
Yes.
different rules. And so when we sent that specific scenario out, that's when we got the requirement of 25% down.
Yes.
And some of the non-QM products, they don't require you to have like that hurricane insurance. And Kai, you just recently sent me another one that we're like, oh, this is going to be really good for Hawaii loans.
Yeah, it's because right now, this is the problem with a lot of condos right now, is that the insurer don't want to insure, and the lender needs the insurance. So we're kind of like a catch-22 where we can't get the HOA to buy this insurance. So we have to go the non-traditional route, which is the non-QM loan. So they will have less restriction, But keep in mind the buyer's interest rate might be slightly higher than if they were going to agency like Fannie or Freddie on it.
But there is a way. I mean, I
Yeah,
feel like
there's a
they're
way of
giving us
finding it.
options. Yeah.
And
And most likely what, 20 to 25% down.
yeah,
There's a 2.25 origination fee.
yeah. And this is happening a lot in the condos in Florida as well, because a lot of them are not being insured properly because they just can't buy the insurance. There's no way they can buy insurance right now on some of these condos, uh, just because of the state of the insurance market right now. A lot of insurers don't want to insure. So right now we're hoping that a lot of the state will come in and help the insurance company so they can co-insure some of these condos.
Okay, so again, I represent the seller, but I'm trying to help the buyer who
Yeah.
loves it and wants to put an offer in. So what can I do on my side to have them put that offer in?
I mean, we can, if they have the 25% down, Myrna can look into a non-QM product for them and show them, hey, this lender will do this, and then kind of give them their option.
Okay, all right, I'll do that because I did answer that question. If her buyer had a minimum of 25% down, and she said that they are selling their home because they are downsizing, so yes, they will have more than 25% to put down.
Yeah. And then now
Okay.
I think just has to do a contingency offer on the sale of their home.
Yeah, and I already spoke to my seller. He's willing to wait because we don't have anything else on the books.
Something
Yeah.
is better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, let
But
me know,
hopefully it
Francis.
won't fall out of escrow again. Okay, I'll call the agent back this afternoon and then
Okay.
I'll let you know. Okay?
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. No problem.
Okay. Mhm.
Any other
What
scenarios
is
out there?
what is usually the difference in interest rate for the non-QM loan option compared to the conventional or like a warrantable condo?
Well, it could be anywhere between 0.5% to a whole percent.
Mm.
It just depends on the borrower's qualification.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think it's still reasonable because like I just closed one at a 7.25%, and it was a non-QM. We just did a bank statement loan. And if we didn't do non-QM, they would have been like a 6.875. So it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like 9 or 10 or 11%, but you know, it worked for them. They had the money and they had the scores, and we were able to get it closed even within 30 days. So it's not like you have extra layers or you need to add extra time to your contract.
And what are the I feel like the rates got down recently, right? Is it down to like high 5%?
No.
No? Was that last week? I'm not paying
Jennifer.
attention then.
On August 8th and 9th, I guess like a little bit over a week ago, we had a 2-day dip and it went right back up. So
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
that's where I saw that.
yeah, they had a 2 days. It was that Friday and that Monday, it dipped a little, and then it
Yeah.
went right back up on that Tuesday. So so if you
Just
lock in on
teasing
that,
us.
yeah, if you lock, but we are expecting the Fed meeting in mid-September where we should have some good news. Now the thing is that when the Fed makes these announcements, it does not happen right away. Okay, a lot of times people say, hey, they made the announcement, rates going to drop. Now it takes time. It might take a couple of weeks or a month for the actual rate to start dropping for you to see the effect of it. But it might, don't expect it that, hey, the Fed meeting is the second week of September that you'll see the rate drop right away. It might be until October before you start seeing the effect of the rate drop.
Mm.
But we'll be watching the market for you and let you know.
Yep, sounds good. Sounds good.
For sure. But yeah, hopefully we'll get some more deals in and we can get some close. I know we've been doing a lot of, loan estimates for you all and scenarios, and we do have some pre-approvals. I mean, we have like your Mark Davis. We have quite a few people that are pre-approved right now. They just haven't moved forward.
Mhm.
So maybe with this little bit of a dip, they'll want to move forward. And some of them are trying to get a little bit more money together as well. I know that, you know, I think there was 2 or 3 of your guys' deals that's what they're doing right now.
Mm.
Anything else? Are we good?
One more quick question.
Yep.
It's election year. What are you guys thinking? Or what do you think will happen? I know it depends on who gets in,
Say something.
but
I'll be honest, we really don't know. It's just like a 8 ball. We cannot tell the future. We don't know. It's just one of those things. We really don't know.
It's like if we were to
okay.
predict who is going to win the election, right?
Yeah, I wish
Yeah.
I had a time machine that I can go in the future and tell you, but I really don't. So.
Mhm.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good afternoon.